Welcome to part 3 of the Robbie Ousley Super Dynamic Social Strata Sphere. Let's talk about sphere levels. The levels of the social strata sphere structure begin at the center, just like the layers do. Levels affect everything through all stratosphere layers, the ground, the atmosphere, and as far out as the layers go, and affect things beyond the sphere. The abilities of social strata levels to stabilize and regulate balance and momentum are determined by we all the people in the sphere. Regardless of what policies, rules, and laws are put into place, everyone affected by them determine their strength and motivation through active and passive responsibilities. If schools aren't teaching what students need to know, then it's up to the students to find out what they need to know another way. Don't reduce what is learned to what is taught. Expand it according to your personal needs and purposes. If religions aren't convincing of purposeful values, ethics, and compassion, then it's up to individuals to dive into understanding what convincing and purposeful values, ethics, and compassion are, and why they are important in our lives. If political leaders aren't following a clear understanding of abilities to serve the needs of everyone, including those who did not support their candidacy, then it's up to everyone in their area to make sure everyone's interests are represented. Anything less develops into increasing authoritarianism. Social structures can be used to benefit or harm those who are represented by them. This is why democratic republics have adopted a system of self-regulation through representation. In a democracy, leaders are elected by the people and are accountable to them. If leaders do not represent the interests of the people, they can be voted out of office. Other organizations, such as churches, schools, and businesses, also need to hold their leaders accountable. People can do this by withdrawing their support from organizations that are not serving their interests. For example, people may stop attending a church if they feel that the leaders are not living up to their religious values. Students may transfer to a different school if they're not getting the education they need, and customers may stop doing business with a company if they are not satisfied with the products or services they are receiving. It is important to remember that we all have a role to play in holding our leaders accountable. By speaking up when we see something wrong, we can help to create a more just and equitable society. The ROSeDS model sees social structure as a sphere with the balance of regulation in the middle. The regulation keeps the sphere moving forward in a direct and stable path. However, just a few changes in regulation can also be used to move the sphere in the opposite direction. It is important to remember that we all have a role to play in shaping the social structure. We can choose to support self-representative regulation, which will move the sphere forward in a positive direction. Or we can choose to support authoritarianism, which will move the sphere in a negative direction. The choice is ours. Do not continue to support people who are supposed to represent you if they are not acting in your best interests. Their failure to represent you and others will lead to failure for everyone. Effective leadership is transparent. Leaders should be open and honest with the people they represent. They should be willing to share information about their decisions and their actions. This transparency allows the people to hold their leaders accountable and to ensure that their interests are being represented. A democratic republic is a form of government where voters are the ultimate authority. In a republic, the people elect representatives to make decisions on their behalf. In a democracy, the people vote directly on laws and policies. Both republics and democracies require transparency from their leaders. Without transparency, it is impossible for the people to know whether their leaders are acting in their best interests. Any form of government that is not fully transparent is to some extent authoritarian. Authoritarianism is a form of government in which power is concentrated in the hands of a small group of people. In an authoritarian government, the people have little or no say in how they are governed. When we look at social structures, we can see that there are many different levels and layers involved in how society could be organized. Some people believe that society should be conservative, meaning that it should be slow to change and should focus on preserving traditional values. Others believe that society should be liberal, meaning that it should be open to change and should focus on individual rights and freedoms. However, it is important to remember that these are not mutually exclusive perspectives. In fact, a healthy society needs both conservative and liberal elements. Conservatives can help to provide stability and continuity, while liberals can help to promote innovation and change. The same is true of the individual and the social. We are all individuals, but we are also part of a larger society. Our individual needs and desires must be balanced with the needs of the society as a whole. Finally, we need to be both reactive and progressive. We need to be able to respond to unexpected events, but we also need to be able to plan for the future. By striking a balance between these two approaches, we can create a society that is both stable and dynamic. Do you see how these different levels can filter throughout all the layers of social structures? When we are realistic and aware of the different perspectives, we can make better decisions about how to organize our society. And when we are not realistic and aware, we can tear the fabric of social structures apart. We need to have balance with stability and progress. We need to have balance with individual rights and the needs of society. We need to have balance with cooperating levels and layers. By finding a balance between these different objectives, we can create a more just and equitable society in all social structures. We could begin with these categories every time, but the central connections actually begin earlier. In other words, categories are divided into subcategories based on the specific social structure being discussed. When we discuss social structures, we often begin with categories like religion, politics, and economics. However, these categories are not always straightforward. For instance, religion encompasses more than just a single church or a group of churches. Likewise, political issues can be local, state, or national. Our approach to these issues will depend on the level of government involved. Understanding the various levels, layers, and categories that social structures can be divided into is crucial. This knowledge will enable us to have more effective conversations about these intricate matters. Let's make the definitions of the key components of social structures easier to understand. Centricities. These are the reliable connections to the core of a social structure. It could be a strong sense of community or a shared belief system that brings people together. Area. This refers to the physical space and the number of people that a social structure encompasses. It's about where it exists and how many individuals are included. Governance. This means that a social structure is controlled by representatives chosen by the people. It's about how decisions are made and who has the power. Faith. It represents the flexible realities within a social structure. It's about the shared beliefs and values that unite people and give them a sense of purpose. Commerce. This refers to the interactions that sustain a social structure's business activities. It's about the systems and activities that enable the structure to function economically. Information. This includes useful education and learning within a social structure. It encompasses knowledge, skills, and experiences shared through conversations, media, arts, and more, which are vital for the structure's well-being. Infrastructure. This encompasses construction, safety, healthcare, and transportation within a social structure. It's about the physical and social systems that support the structure and ensure its stability. Understanding these components is crucial for comprehending how social structures function. With this understanding, we can better create and maintain healthy and thriving societies, fulfilling the needs that these tools provide for all of us. What types of social structures can you think of? What are some examples of your social structures? How do social structures balance their autonomy and cooperation among other social structures? How many categories of social structures come to mind? In this polar chart, we have 6 layer categories and 5 category levels. This polar chart shows 8 categories arranged around in layers and 4 categories arranged at different levels. What factors determine the number of layers and levels available to be categorized? How do we determine whether something should be classified as a category or another sphere of subtopics? There are many types of social structures, and some of the most common examples include Economic structures, these systems organize the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Political structures. These systems govern a society and make decisions about its operations. Interpersonal structures. These systems organize relationships between individuals and groups. Cultural structures. These systems transmit and preserve shared beliefs, values, and customs within a society. Environmental structures. These systems interact with and shape a society's physical surroundings. One of the many jobs of the ROSeDS model is to provide flexibility within social structures to give individuals and societies more stability. How we think about social structure has a whole lot to do with how strong our society and leverage for freedom are. The social Strata Sphere model is a dynamic and always changing model. It can have so many levels and layers that they seem like a smooth surface around the sphere. This is because the model is based on the idea that social structure keeps evolving and doesn't stay the same. The model is super versatile because it can show an unlimited number of possibilities. It's not limited by specific assumptions or categories. It can represent any kind of social structure, no matter how big, complicated, or advanced it is. The social Strata Sphere model is a powerful tool for understanding and studying social structure. It helps us see the different levels and layers of social structure and how they're connected. We can also use it to keep track of changes in social structure over time. True to the cause of understanding physical, visible, and invisible social structures, the Robbie Ousley Superdynamic Social Stratosphere Structure model is true to its name. This animated charted diagram of social structure gives some idea of how beautiful the real-life working structures are. This animated chart is a great way to visualize how all the different and beautiful real-life workings of structures are. All of the parts fit and work well together. Before we move on to the exciting completion of this part of the series, I want to sum up what you have seen so far. I will do that by breaking down the meaning of ROSeDS. Of course, the rho at the beginning of ROSeDS is for my name, Robbie Ousley. Super is a word that describes something as being more than what is normal or expected. It indicates something that goes above and beyond in terms of speed, size, performance, or amount. Dynamic means always changing, full of activity, and bringing new ideas and progress. It's flexible and can be applied in many different areas. Only imaginative and creative ideas are considered dynamic. These are the ideas that bring excitement and innovation. Please keep in mind that changing directions is not an option. Moving forward is the only choice available unless you want to lose all your influence and representation. When one person loses their influence and representation, it becomes impossible to protect everyone's influence and representation. We need to ensure that everyone's voice is heard and respected. Our motivation determines whether we have a positive or negative attitude towards progress and growth. It's important to stay motivated and have a positive mindset as we are always moving forward. The social Strata Sphere model is a model that changes and adapts. It can be used for various kinds of systems regardless of their size. The social Strata Sphere model is a flexible tool that helps us understand how different systems are structured. We can use it to see how atoms come together to form molecules, how planets revolve around stars and solar systems, and how galaxies cluster together. This is why we call it a dynamic model. It can be applied to different situations and helps us grasp how things are organized in various systems. Social is all about people. It's about how we connect, make friends, and build communities. It can describe a small group of friends or a big global community. It's about the things that bring us together and the things that make each of us unique. The universe is vast and filled with many fascinating things. It may seem complicated, but there is also a sense of order and beauty to it. Shapes and the forces of magnetism and gravity play roles in how the universe is structured. They influence everything from tiny atoms to massive galaxies. These forces also shape our social world. People are naturally drawn to others who have similar interests, and that helps bring us together. Strata are like layers of material stacked on top of each other, such as the ground, atmosphere, and beyond. Each layer is called a stratum, like a separate piece of the stack. Levels are related to the state of these layers, like erosion, deposits, compression, and corrosion. In social terms, strata layers can be compared to different areas of interest, and levels represent how those interests are shaped and developed. Think about how plants and other natural structures have layers that follow a spiral pattern. Plants, for example, start with closed spirals and gradually open up as they grow. Atoms and planets, on the other hand, form from open spirals as they gather materials and eventually become closed, spherical shapes. Spirals that keep growing eventually become spherical and enclose a central core. A sphere is a round shape that includes everything within its outermost surface. In social terms, a sphere refers to a specific area of activity, interest, or expertise. A social sphere can also be a section of society or a particular aspect of life that is grouped together based on shared characteristics. You know what the ROSeDS acronym stands for, but here is what the meaning of ROSeDS is: interdimensional, flexible applications of interrelational layers and levels of common influences. Interdimensional flexible applications of interrelational layers and levels of common influences. Now you understand the significance of the ROSeDS model. You have also seen how the model is based on a simple, most natural design. It seems impossible to imagine with incredibly wide-ranging capabilities. With the ROSeDS model, you can grasp understanding of the cosmos and beyond. This wraps up part 3 of the ROSeDS model presentation. I can't hardly wait to share part 4 with you. It will usher us into the charting and flow of the ROSeDS model.